Hello everybody and welcome to our new webinar series where we're talking about all things automation and AI and hopefully giving some great insights and actionable information for the audience. Now today I've got Roger Moore with me, who's actually just joined us as board advisor recently and previously worked at Mon Motors. And in fact, I'll allow you to introduce yourself, Roger.
Yeah, I was with Mon Motors for about 16 years in all, in a non-exec capacity for the first 7 years, and then 9 years as a full-time group finance director. And yeah, just last month made a decision to move on and do something else, which was done with a sad and heavy heart. But yeah, anyway, good news is at least I've managed to maintain some involvement in the industry via the team at Nexbotix, and yeah, carrying on working with Chris.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so I'm Chris Porter, so I'm the CEO of Nexbotix, and we're an AI-driven process automation firm. And we're doing a lot in the automotive sector. In fact, today is all about how we can 4x the efficiency of the dealerships through our automated dealership kind of solutions that we're putting together. And I think, you know, what we'll do is we'll talk a bit about the challenges of the sector. We're just going to explain to us some of the challenges that are prevalent in the automotive retail sector today. And then we'll get into some of the high-level solutions, particularly as we put into Mon Motors. And then over time, there'll be more webinars coming up where we'll talk about more solutions in the further process programs as well. So first, Roger, you know, the landscape's changed a lot in the last few years. There's lots of Chinese EV dealers coming in. There's lots of pressure on the dealerships. I mean, multiple challenges. Maybe perhaps you can talk to us about some of those issues you saw, particularly in Mon Motors, but I guess across the industry generally.
Yeah, everybody in our industry is going to be well aware of these challenges. This is not new. This has been brewing over the last sort of 12 months or so. You know, we've certainly seen the Chinese manufacturers land with pretty serious volumes very quickly. But of course, you know, an awful lot of the dealer groups across the country have embraced that opportunity as well and taken on some of those Chinese franchise dealerships. So, yeah, you know, some people will be benefiting from that as well. But I think, you know, what that's certainly doing is driving the need for constant cost awareness. Yeah. And everybody, every CFO across our country, I'm sure, is looking at all the efficiencies they can try and drive within the businesses. You know, we know the industry's a very low margin industry. So anything you can do to reduce cost base or drive more efficiency is hugely important. And I think it'll become more critical as you go forward over the next few years. We're going to see a big transformation in the industry that we've operated in.
So, I mean, do you think there's any opportunity for dealers to, I guess, increase their margin from the manufacturers in time, or do you think that's just going to go the other way?
Well, I don't know if it's going to go the other way. I'm not sure they're going to be able to really drive down your margin. You know, don't get me wrong. I think, you know, there was a whole discussion over the last few years around transition to agency. Yeah. A lot of the manufacturers seem to be rowing back from that now. I think, you know, one thing that's for sure is every manufacturer needs a viable, profitable dealer network. Yeah. So there's a limit to what they can do to, you know, drive margin backwards, but then there are some areas that they're not going to have a lot of control over. If, you know, we talked about transition to EV, there's a huge impact there in terms of after sales profitability. And yeah, I think it's going to be that changing landscape in the next few years is going to bring up a lot of challenges that I don't think, to be honest, today a lot of the manufacturers really know themselves what the answers to that are going to be.
Interesting. And what about processes then? So we're obviously all about processes as Nexbotix and using AI and various technology to actually improve the way processes are run in the businesses. What would you say are some of the challenges around some of the, I guess, admin heavy work across the dealerships?
I guess accuracy is a big challenge. You know, anything that can be done, you know, we obviously worked together when I was at Mon Motors. I mean, I wasn't the guy who ran the process sort of with you, you know, day to day. The team there were the people who did all the hard work with you guys. But, you know, certainly some of the advantages that the team could see that were coming through were improved accuracy in processing, you know, high volumes of documentation. So there's time. You know, a bot doesn't sort of, you know, go home at night, do they? The bot doesn't have holidays, and you know, all those good things. So it's kind of constantly there processing information. But yeah, that's I think the key there.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, certainly what we see across the kind of dealership network generally is that all the systems they use are very similar. And I guess you've probably seen that from counterparts you've spoken to industry, that actually there's a lot of similarity in systems, and therefore, of course, a lot of similarity in process, which I guess lends itself well to hopefully standardizing and potentially automating those processes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, when we first met, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago now, when at one of the UHY FD forums, you know, one of the things that we were talking about then was the importance of you guys being able to create products that would enable the dealers to automate so many of these routine processes that are just high volume, rinse, repeat every single day, and you know, take a lot of people doing it. And to be honest, some of the work that you're automating as well is, you know, a bit sort of, there's a lot of drudgery involved in that. You know, it's not a particularly exciting part of a business, is it, in terms of doing the same thing over and over again? And that's what a bot does incredibly well.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's, you know, hopefully what we do for the dealer network is we allow the individuals to go on to more interesting work, as you say, because entering data into systems is quite boring and prone to errors, as we've seen in lots of places as well. So if we can actually elevate and allow people to think a bit differently and add more value to the organisation, perhaps, you know, analyse data rather than entering data, you know, it's more value, isn't it?
And I think, you know, one of the good things that you guys do is, you know, nothing's perfect, right? But what you do is you have a pretty, but you know, the bot will do sort of, you know, say it does 90% of the volume. You know, the important part is you guys are flagging via reports so that the team that are still there, and that you've still got to have people that are there making sure that, you know, this is all done properly. But ultimately, it's those flag reports that make a difference, because all of a sudden they're only dealing with 10% maybe of the volume of transactions, whereas beforehand they were dealing with, you know, 100% of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. That's a critical part of Naya, our platform, that allows humans to interact with the processes as they're running and correct any challenges, issues, exceptions, whatever it might be. And then, of course, allow the bot to carry on and doing its process after that. So making things seamless and easy for the user, really. Yeah, actually, awesome. Good stuff. So I guess from a challenge perspective, is there anything else that you think would be relevant to raise that where perhaps automation as technology you think could help?
I think there's a wider range of different processes, because again, you know, automotive retail is all about that. It's all about repeat process in every single aspect of what the industry does. So, you know, whether it be sort of front end in terms of, you know, sales systems, after sales systems, whether it be all the back end infrastructure that, you know, I know Nexbotix are absolutely focused on making sure that you get that right and develop as many of those products as you can. But, you know, sales admin processes, you know, you've worked on a lot of these things with customers to date, and you've proved success in it. But I think a lot of the back office processing, absolutely, you can have a huge impact on.
Yeah, well, I think there's probably something like 60 or 70 processes that we've kind of got, you know, capability in today, which is, it's quite significant across the kind of enterprise work stack. But yeah, we're probably scratching the surface in reality, because like I say, things like after sales, huge amount there that could be automatically improved, and we'll get to those for sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So I guess just for the audience, just in terms of you know, where do you start? So something we hear a lot about from our customers is, where do we start if we wanted to go on some kind of journey here? And I guess for us, we would always help you to identify the best place for your organization. So it typically is in the finance department, because things like purchase ledger invoicing, bank reconciliation, supplier statements, all those things are very hungry in terms of time and effort, and lend themselves well to automation. So we often start in the finance department with organizations. But actually, it's about each individual business, you know, and sales admin, as we've touched on, is a huge area with kind of 30 or 40 sub-processes on that on its own. So, you know, there's plenty of areas to discuss. So what we effectively do is offer a free discovery workshop, ultimately, for our clients, where we come in look at a couple of areas of the business, understand some of the challenges and the processes, and then effectively recommend where you should start. And we do a little return on investment assessment on kind of the first 1 or 2 processes, so that we give it a report to the client to say, yeah, look, does this make sense? Does this something we want to start? So that's kind of what we're doing as our initial step. Because I guess, looking back to when we first engaged with you, it's probably, we talked about a few processes, and I suppose it'd be interesting to see how you were feeling as a customer then, to kind of, does this make sense? Where should we start? How do we get this thing going?
Yeah, probably a bit of trepidation.
Yeah.
It's so easy to sort of latch on to what you think might be the next new thing.
Yeah.
Whereas what you've got to be really careful of, where equally within a large business, if you do disrupt, if you do cause a problem, that doesn't take long for that problem to sort of extrapolate and become a real big issue. So I guess to be fair, what you guys did in a real good way was you tested it in certain levels, like micro environments, gave us some real good testing process, work through. I think our team back at Mon Motors at the time were helping you define some of that as well, and come up with what were good ideas for the future. And I think again that you're, as a software company, you've obviously got to be very careful you don't try and be all things to all people, because all of a sudden you can go down a black hole real quick, can't you? But what you were very good at was listening to us and adapting where you could and where you needed to, and to try and refine that. And I think you found that with your other customers, from what I understand, that you've also had some good experiences there, but by taking exactly the same approach.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually, because collaboration is one of the things that we really pride ourselves on as a business, and working closely with customers, because we're not doing this to a customer, we're doing this with the customer, and it's a journey we're going on together. And actually, there's things that the subject matter experts, in terms of how they run the process every day, whilst we'll have and continue to gain much more knowledge as we go forward, there's always certain things that the individual just knows it will never know. So it's trying to extract that and go, right, that's really important, we need to build that into our software stack so that it becomes automated in the future, for example. So that's how we try and work.
And those phrases are used a lot in business, right? Everybody comes in and tells you they want to be a partner, and it doesn't matter whether it's a lawyer or whether it's a software provider, it doesn't matter who it is. But to be fair, we found that was absolutely the way that you guys worked. So it made a big difference to the success.
Yeah, that's good. And then I guess in terms of so obviously we've originally done the purchase ledger invoicing, we're looking at other processes across the organisation. What would you say in terms of the success of the initial program of work for Mon Motors?
Again, my understanding is that it all went very well. The team were very happy with it. Moving forward, obviously there'll be some other people you need to keep happy rather than me.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I know that much like all the other sizable automotive retailers, everybody is looking to try and drive those efficiencies. And I think moving forwards, as I said, constant communication with the customers is whatever it is. You've got to define everything through your customer need.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Yeah, and in fact, we do take a lot of feedback from customers on particular Nire, on the product set, and on what to do next, and actually trying to build that into our own technology roadmap, because it has to be customer driven, doesn't it? We can think of great ideas and then build something, take it to the customer, and they go, well, we don't need that.
No, absolutely.
So yeah,
we've talked about things recently like assisting with customers in buying process. So opportunities where one of the big challenges is finding used stock, especially in a period where you're in a new car volume decline. So if you've got to drive a used car business, you're not going to do that through just part exchanges if your new car volumes are falling, which a lot of manufacturers are. So to be able to do that, you've got to be able to go out and source your stock, and the only way you're sourcing that is by buying the stock. But everybody's competing for that stock. So understanding what you're buying it at the right price is critical. So again, the sort of products that you're developing now that are going to assist in that, I can see being absolutely invaluable.
Yeah, no, we're excited. I mean, as automotive is a massive focus for us moving forward. It's our primary focus, and we've got a lot of products that we are building that will be much faster to deploy, therefore cheaper for the clients as well. And they get to the adding the value element, as in running, delivering benefit much faster. So
yeah,
that's really key for us as a business. Again, one of the things you pointed out when we first met, is because it is complicated. Yeah, building automated processes is complicated. And I wouldn't want to ever shy away from that. But of course, from our perspective, we need to make it as simple as possible for the organisation, so that for them it feels like a stress-free program of work, a simple transition that doesn't affect any of the BAU activity. I think that's a key point for us, and hopefully we've kind of delivered that at More Motors. Yeah, that's good stuff. And just in terms of the volumes there, which is looking really strong, so we're kind of well over 90,000 invoices a year now. In fact, that's growing with your previous with Bond's acquisition last year, and we've estimated around about 4,000 hours of saved time, so it's pretty significant. And of course, those errors are now fully removed because as we said, the bots don't make errors because they just do what they're told to do, and us poor humans, unfortunately, sometimes we end up copy and pasting the wrong thing or into the wrong value or whatever we do.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's really reassuring about that is, all software, it looks good, it looks great in test. Hopefully, most people's demos go well, But we've all sat through so many of these different sort of proposals. But what you've demonstrated as well is your ability to scale. Whenever anybody's doing a very small sort of pilot testing process on a low number of, in this example, invoices, then sometimes those sort of things can seem pretty straightforward. But as soon as you start to scale into proper meaningful volumes, it's good to see that the product's stable and solid.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's one of the core features from our CTO that develops the software program, the roadmap. It was actually because volumes fluctuate so often across the dealer networks, across the retailers, then we have to have the ability to scale up to thousands of invoices, documents, wherever it might be for the process, on certain days, literally. Because you don't really know. I mean, obviously, month end and quarter end are always busier times, but actually there could be periods in the new registration day is not quite what it used to be, but there's still more processing at those times, aren't there? So the solution needs to be able to scale up very quickly. So we kind of make sure we build that into it for sure. Good. Okay. Well, I think that's probably it for today. I mean, thank you very much, Roger, for joining me.
My pleasure.
We'll certainly have more of these to come, as we said. Probably next one will be September time, and we'll get a deep dive into some of the actual processes and products we're building in a bit more detail. But our Lunch and Learn series. Thank you, audience, for joining, and hopefully there's some insights in there for you. If you want to talk to us about any of the potential for automotive automation, then drop us a line anytime. Roger's available too with his experience if anyone wants to tap into that. And thank you very much, Roger.
My pleasure. Thanks very much. You too, Chris. Thanks, everybody.